Let's bring in Kathleen and Gordon. You were the two of the people who really mattered most. It wasn't a fund of funds, that was feeding money into Madoff that had to explain it to their investors who were largely institutional. This was your life savings that you were depending on. And it was 15 years ago, but Kathleen, I'll start with you. Are you still feeling the pain of what happened to you because of Madoff?
It still hurts. We're in pretty good shape now, but I have to say, I do think of all the money I would have had, and, the betrayal still hurts. I don't think that'll ever go away.
And Gordon, just to be clear, people need to understand it wasn't that this was a get-rich-quick scheme. You weren't investing in a gold mine in South America. That this all seemed very much above board, and the returns were pretty reasonable. He just didn't lose money very often, right?
Yeah, that's correct. The earlier segment, Madoff mentioned that his investors were greedy. I take issue with that. For our statements, we got a pretty steady 10% per year. So when the stock market went up 20%, we got 10. When it went down 20%, we got 10. That was the attractive thing. That was the seductive thing about Madoff. He wasn't promising the moon. He was promising just a nice, steady return, and that's what we were living off of. We weren't looking for the moon. We were just looking for regular income to live off of.
And what do you remember about him that made him so compelling in terms of trust? Kathleen?
Well, I trusted Madoff because my husband was involved. And so I really didn't know anything about finance. And I trusted my husband. He's a smart man. He's a successful man. He did due diligence. He researched Madoff. He saved the articles that when Madoff was investigated by the SEC, he saved the articles that cleared Madoff. And so with all that, why not?
Gordon, how do you make sense of how a guy who wasn't really even investing the money was able to avoid detection?
Incompetence, total incompetence by the regulatory agencies. I mean, transparency is great, but if there's no one that is taking action and bringing about and reviewing and checking on that transparency, it's no longer transparency. And that's what happened with Madoff. The people that were in the SEC were incompetent, and they were too awed by Madoff, who had chaired the NASDAQ and had done actually some very good inventive things with electronic trading. And they just brushed over all the red flags that were there and ignored them.
So Kathleen, you're doing okay now, but this was a strain that literally tested your bond of husband and wife and trying to deal with the enormous toll on what it would mean for your life, right?
Yes, it was, if I'm understanding you correctly, it was an enormous amount of stress. And in the beginning, when we first got the news, we turned the heat off because we couldn't really afford to pay for it. And it was December, and it was cold. And just that feeling of having nothing and having to start over at our ages, it's just something that doesn't go away.
Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to newsnationnow.com, newsnationnow.com, and you can find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button down below. Then you will get more of NewsNation's fact-driven coverage.